Hi, everyone. We're going to get started. It's my pleasure to be able to introduce Margaret today. So it's hard to imagine that a year ago today we had no Margaret with us and we had no volunteer services program manager. We had no logistics and database up and going. We had so many things we were without. But as Margaret celebrates her 1 year with us tomorrow, and we look back and we see all the amazing things that she's helped us move forward with in our volunteer services, I am excited to be able to introduce her to spend the next half hour telling us a little bit about volunteering with MCC and some of the things that she's been working on. And I will leave her to introduce her guests today. So thank you, Margaret. Hello, everyone. So this week, April 15th to 21st, is National Volunteer Week in Canada. It's a week to celebrate the impact of volunteering. The big picture of what that looks like in Canada is that there's almost 13 million volunteers in Canada, as an estimate, and they give approximately 150 hours of service each year. So 13 million people. At MCC, that's not very much of a surprise to us because we know that much of what we do and who we are is shaped and carried out by volunteers. When I started working at MCC, I had a conversation with Rick, who was our ED at the time, and he told me a story about a partner who had come from one of our MCC peace projects overseas, and they had come here to Canada just to get an orientation and to discover a bit about what MCC in Canada, who was supporting them, looked like. The partner had the opportunity to attend a relief sale, to tour some of our thrift stores, and came to the MCC offices here. And at one point, this partner turned to Rick and said, before I came to Canada, I had this picture of MCC as a huge organization with lots of staff and lots of resources. But now I see that MCC is a small organization with lots of volunteers who give generously of their time and their resources. As this week marks 1 year that I've been working for MCC as the Volunteer Services Manager, one of my greatest pleasures since I started this position has been sharing that story and painting this picture of MCC for anyone who has asked me over this year about, oh, what's your new job and what are you doing? And as I explain to them what I do, I like to drop in the fact that MCC has well over 2,000 volunteers. And we know that for a fact now because I have a database to prove it, which is what I've been working on for the last year. Usually when I point out that we have well over 2,000 volunteers, people are amazed and in awe, and they wonder how I manage 2,000 volunteers. And I don't, because no one person could provide and care well for that many people. So my position was the new position that was created to help the people who manage all of those volunteers. Our thrift shop managers, our program coordinators, our revenue development staff, and our office administrators, and all of our programs, like so many. Every aspect of our organization has volunteers and has somebody who is caring for those people. Our mission statement says that MCC shares God's love and compassion for all in the name of Christ. And I understand my role as ensuring that as we go about serving the world in need, that we don't lose sight of the fact that our volunteers are a part of that all of God's children. That those who are giving to us of their gifts and their time and their talents, they are God's children, and we want to make sure as an organization that we show our care and our appreciation and our concern for our volunteers as much as we do for any other person that we are called as an organization to walk alongside and with. As someone who supports managers and administrators and coordinators, what I do a lot of the time is ensure that there are systems and policies and resources in place. And systems and policies and databases sound pretty cold. And they don't see, not always do people see that as being involved with people. But what I see that I am doing is ensuring that when somebody wants to join us in our work for peace and justice as a volunteer, that they will be honored and that their commitment will be respected, that their contribution will be celebrated and valued. So as I put that database together and I see more than 2,000 people's names coming in, and then I see the hours and hours that people are contributing, I understand the measurable contributions that are being made. For example, I can tell you that from March 1st to April 1st in our thrift shops, where volunteers have been willingly signing in and signing out for the last few months, from March 1st to April 1st in our thrift shops, 18,490 hours of time was generously given by volunteers. So if you multiplied that by 16, giving all of those volunteers a living wage, that would be $295,840 in 1 month. That's an incredible contribution to our organization. And everything I read about impact says we're not supposed to talk about the numbers. Like, don't take what volunteers do and reduce it to time and to dollars, because what they do is have an impact on lives and on people. But as a mother of 3 children, I know that one of my most valuable things I have is time. And the fact that I look at that time, I don't just see numbers. I see a story of people who give. They give their time. They show up day after day, and they give of themselves simply because they believe that what they do is important and that it contributes to making this world a better place. So that's what I have to say, and who better for us to hear from during Volunteer Week than some actual live volunteers. So we have asked some volunteers if they would come and share about their experiences volunteering and what they do. And so Herta and Josh have come to share with us today. Thank you so much for your willingness. And then Katie is going to talk as a program coordinator a bit about the impact of the volunteers in her program. So I'll hand it over to Herta first, if you're happy to go.
I had fun this weekend, the weather allowed me to do this, to reacquaint myself.
Here, so I just touch your voice. It's green, you're good to go.
To reacquaint myself with my PowerPoint on my computer. It's been since about the year 2000 that I had to do anything with PowerPoint, so I kind of had some fun relearning that. Made a lot of goofs, so be patient with me. So I went to the internet first, and why volunteer? The more we give, the happier we feel. Volunteering increases self-confidence. You are doing good for others and the community, which provides a natural sense of accomplishment. Your role as a volunteer can also give you a sense of pride and identity. Giving to others can also help protect your mental and physical health. A lot of this today, I could basically stand here and go, read. Read. I may add a little bit here and there, but essentially I typed it out first, and then I played with the PowerPoint, and I may just embellish it a little bit here and there. But and I also tried to add a few pictures. Over the time I've been volunteering, I'm guessing about a year and a half here with MCC, to show my family and my friends what it is actually that I do. I occasionally hauled out the phone and clicked a few pictures. So fortunately I had a few, next please, I had a few that I could put onto my PowerPoint. This was ladies' night. So when I first came here to volunteer, I really none of those things really came to mind because I recently retired. I didn't do retirement well. I tried all the traditional retirement things. I thought I was going to absolutely lose my mind. Having said that, I say on the slide here, I do still try to golf occasionally. I spent a pile of money on private lessons, much to the frustration of the golf coaches, teachers. And one of them just said, you know what, sell them. Sell them. So I still have them. This is my last year that I'm ever going to go to a league and try it, and then I'm going to give them away. So every year from 2007 to the past year, I taught in South Africa and Uganda. That was wonderful, that was powerful, that was exhausting, it was rewarding, it was all of the above. But now that's Carl, many of you know Carl. But it no longer became physically feasible for me to do that. So this last year, 2017, was my last year to go there. The reward there was that my class of 2010 graduated in 2017, so I was able to see them through their matriculation. It was wonderful, it was awesome, and it was my closure for South Africa. Next, please. This is Bob and Helmut, also two wonderful gentlemen. I will come back to them again later. These are the guys. At a certain age, I realized that it was also time to downsize, which brings me to the volunteering decision. I was in a big house. It made no sense. So I had to get rid of things, and people said, well, there's a really good place you can take a lot of your things. So I brought them here. Being basically nosy and curious, I started to sniff around the store a little bit and thought, So I asked the lady at the reception, the woman at the reception, wow, there's a lot of people buzzing around here. And are they all working here? No, they're all volunteers. Oh, how does one get to be a volunteer here? Because by now I decided I wasn't. Anyways, long story short, at the end of the day, I put in my application, spoke to Dan, and thought, well, you know what? I can still do volunteering, I can still contribute, and I don't have to make a 30-hour flight anywhere. So that's how I ended up here. This is another ladies' night photo. If you've ever experienced ladies' night, ladies, it's a pretty awesome experience. It's lots of fun. It's like insane. But it is a wonderful evening. Voila. The training was thorough and respectful. The people who both work and volunteer here come from a variety of backgrounds. It is always a pleasure to come to work. Always. Next, please. On one of the days, while putting my purse into a locker, I watched the action in the warehouse. And again, being nosy, I was watching Wendy do a presentation, and I again asked, what's all this about? What are all these white barrels about? What's all these things on the wall about? And then when I was explained to me what was going on, where these things go, what's happening, being a retired school teacher, I thought, this again is right up my alley. This is something I would really like to do. Where do I sign? And I have started, and now these again, there's Ken and Helmut and Carl, and that little guy here, that's actually a 13-year-old grandnephew who I will refer to later, fixing a chair. And the reason I point that out is I will mention him later on. He's 13 years old, he's 6 foot tall, and I will tell you more about him later. There's Carl again. The team this team was awesome. The paid personnel are so patient because, we always have questions and we always like what, how, what. We're getting better at the how, and what ourselves. The lead hands are also volunteers, which is awesome because then we don't have to bother the people who are doing the paid work, which is, I don't know how they do it because all the stuff that go in the kits is brand new. It just amazes me. And we are guided and monitored by people who personify patience and diligence, which just amazes me. Now this we were talking about downstairs just before I came up. The work is sometimes repetitive, sometimes challenging. There's never nothing to do. If no kits are to be processed, there's sorting, tidying, restocking, setting up for church teams or youth groups. For a while we were also helping the days for girls. And so there's always something different. There's always something challenging. There's never a dull moment. And there's always chatter and chit-chat, and you always learn from each other, and there's always laughter. And sometimes it's just quiet, which is also just lovely. Oh, I didn't eliminate it. Dang. Okay, I was asked to share a meaningful story. That young man that was repairing the chair, and I'll tell it first. He's 13 years old. He has Asperger's. When he's with the family, I don't know what goes on at school. So I came and told Helmut and Bob, little guy has some learning disabilities, and he's not very communicative, and he kind of nods and goes, I don't know. So I said, please, quietly, he might need repetition or simplification of instructions. I figured he'd be bored within an hour. So I didn't even bring a lunch that day. He brought his lunch. So lunchtime comes, and I said, well, you want to go home, Ryan? It's lunchtime. Guys are going for lunch. Okay. Off he went. So he went off with the guys, sat with the guys. I'm over here. laughing, talking, chit-chat. Fine. Well, I gotta go. Back to work. He's now been with me 6 times. I don't know who this kid is. He jokes, he laughs, he's done 4 or 5 different jobs around here. Where's Bob? How's Bob doing? Did Bob ask that for me? Is Bob, and Helmut, did Helmut miss me? And he jokes, he talks, and he, well, we're going for break, where are you going? I don't know who this lad is. With the family now, when he comes to it this past Easter, he came to a family gathering, walks in the door straight to me. So, how are the guys doing? Do they miss me? Do they know I'm coming this summer? So, next slide. Maybe I was brought to MCC not just for me. Maybe I was brought for him. Either way, being here has gifted me lessons of humility, gratitude, and open-mindedness. That's it.
Yeah, so I'm Josh Huebner, and I volunteer down at the furniture department. And yeah, I've been here for the past couple months, but this isn't my first time being part of the MCC community. I was raised with my family doing their part in MCC's international outreach and missionary work in Southern Kentucky for 5 years. And with that, I got to see a lot of the very meaningful work that is done within MCC, all basically around the world. And yeah, it was just it was my years from 4 to 9. So I grew up just knowing that what MCC does, and we help people, and we give them our time in the need and stuff like that. And yeah, we were around with the Hurricane Katrina and stuff like that, and so my mom and sister went and to go down there and help with all that. And so yeah, it's always been a very big part of my life. And with that, I've also helped at the MCC thrift store in New Hamburg with my youth group numerous times for certain outings. We go and help behind the retail space and sorting, cleaning, and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I always found that interesting, and yeah, it was nice. And so then some of the responsibilities that I do here is cleaning up the furniture and making everything very presentable for the thrift store customer, and to get the highest value and the highest value and
Return.
yeah, return in that. And yeah, so then I also help with pricing the furniture, and then also moving the furniture out to the floor, and then rearranging the space down there to make a very nice, coherent space for shopping, and for that the customers will look at each piece in the certain way that it should be looked at, and then that moves a lot of the product on the floor. And yeah, so with that, I also have had some history with furniture, working in a furniture store for 4 years now or so. So a lot of yeah, the stuff that I do here was very natural for me, which was nice. And I also got to learn a lot, a lot of new stuff. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to come here, was I like being busy and I like learning new stuff. And yeah, so when I talked with Dan, when I you know, came here to, you know, sort of feel out the space and sort of like, is this a spot for me? I came here with my friend Ken, who's in the back, and yeah, so he brought me to Dan, and we had a really good like conversation. He went over a lot of the all the different stuff that happens in the back of the thrift store, and all that like was very fascinating to me. And then he, you know, finished was like, okay, well then what interests you the most? And I said like, really all of it does interest me because like just yeah, all the different like learning about, you know, the housewares and the furniture and other stuff like that. And so I, you know, sort of landed on that I think the furniture department would be the best fit for me. And yeah, so um, and um, yeah, and so since then, I mean, I started just earlier this year, so I haven't been here as long as some people have been, and but I've really appreciated that every shift has had like a really great hands-on learning experience. Um, Either, you know, just handyman work, you know, learning how to, yeah, fix certain pieces of furniture, and then also just, you know, having, you know, input from other of volunteers at the back that sort of, you know, like, hey, maybe this could work like that, or is just like a lot of positive feedback, sort of like how to deal with certain things that, you know, I've been not really stumped over, but like just, yeah.
A new challenge.
Yeah, and that. And so, yeah, everybody just is like extremely helpful and is willing to be there and sort of say and walk through, sort of like, okay, yeah, so this could happen this way, and other things like that, which, yeah, which is really nice. And I've, for the most part, always worked in a very positive work environment, and which feels great and is great. And so, yeah, I'm just like extremely thankful that coming here was basically just as easy as anything else because, yeah, there's no hiccups. And yeah, and then another thing that I do really like is the occasional conversation between other volunteers about, you know, their past or, you know, other reasons like why they came here, and also with some of the customers out on the floor while I'm bringing stuff out, and you know, they'll mention something about either the piece that I'm bringing out, or I'll mention something that they're looking at, and then that'll create a small dialogue, and then, you know, stories are shared, and then it's just that extra little bit of like really nice connection between, you know, Thrift on Kent and the community, and that always feels very nice. And Yeah, and it's all the experiences like that that just really make my time here at Thrift on Kent very positive.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
I think he should also be the official greeter. Because whenever we walk by the furniture section, he's always smiling and says hello and always has a happy word. And whenever we chat, he's just always the most positive and pleasant person.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I think I'm going to I'm going to also sit.
Okay.
If everyone can see okay. But so I think I know most people in the room, but my name is Katie, and I'm part of the team that runs the Circle of Friends program with MCC. And so basically it's a program that matches 2 or 3 volunteers with an individual in the community who's experienced homelessness. And over the past 6 years I've been with the Circles program, I've had the incredible honor and opportunity to walk with a whole host of volunteers. So it's been quite the journey of both getting to know Circles participants, but also getting to know some incredible volunteers. So I'm just going to kind of speak a little bit to last summer, Jana Martin, who's now on staff with Social Enterprise. She was a student intern with Circle of Friends, and she conducted a research survey on the Circle of Friends volunteer experience. So I just kind of wanted to pull a couple of things from that survey that she did, just of different experiences that volunteers have had with Circle of Friends, and then and just kind of a jumping off point to kind of talk about their impact on the Circle of Friends program as well. So, so one of the questions that was posed in the survey was, what do you like about volunteering with Circle of Friends? And so there were lots of different remarks, but a number of people said that building relationships that are genuinely meaningful for everyone involved, seeing relationships that have a positive effect on an individual's life. Volunteers reported their own sort of significant personal learning and growth. They said that they had, from Circle of Friends, they had gained new perspectives on homelessness. They had said that, initially they were sort of afraid of individuals who were homeless, not really knowing what it was like, but they said that the best way to learn about homelessness is to hear people's stories and just to hang out with them. And that they were able to sort of gain that from being involved with Circles. And one of the comments that a volunteer made was, you realize that they are just like you, except they've hit a rough spot in life and they've come out of it. Others kind of said that they had learned to become better listeners, and that rather than just giving advice. Initially, one volunteer shared that he used to try and go above and beyond and push an agenda, but had learned with time to listen more deeply and give less advice. Another said, so there were 24 people that responded to the survey, so it was kind of a good body of volunteers that had responded. Another kind of said that they had learned a lot of patience, that meeting people where they're at and not where we want them to be. Another volunteer said that she initially tried to accomplish a lot in an individual's life, then eventually accepted that all the Circle can do is just to be your friend. Another said that becoming more compassionate and less judgmental. I am more realistically compassionate now, one said. So a couple of volunteers who responded to this survey also kind of said that sometimes it can be hard to know to what extent friendship can influence positive change. And I think that's been something that I've, over the years with Circles, have heard that people are like, well, really, how much can friendship really alter another human? But I think the more we think about that, the more I think about that in the context of my own life. I think about the people that have been tracking with me over the years, that those people are actually quite monumental in my life, that having friendship, having people that are committed to you, it really does make a huge difference in your life. And I think also the difference with circles is that often it's a person who, often the experience of homelessness can be quite traumatic in an individual's life, can often have impact someone's self-confidence, their self-esteem, just through the experience of homelessness, let alone through the experience of a mental health crisis or other challenges in their life. And so I think that constant, the showing up, a person, that weekly visit with people that are committed to walking with them, that hospitality shown, that piece can actually be quite revolutionary for that person. Knowing that just having a group of people that are going to be there for them week after week can really build a person's self-confidence. That can also give them the opportunity to see that there are people that are there for them. I think that one of the things that I've seen is that that presence, that act of just showing up, is actually really huge. I do have a quote here. It says, "People." It's from two authors, Chris Hertz and Christine Poole, and I really love their work. They talk a lot about hospitality with those on the margins, and so I think this one quote just speaks to this. It says, "People are transformed when someone is willing to listen to their stories, to share a meal with them, to find their insights and concerns important or interesting. The experience of homelessness can often be traumatic and leave a person feeling isolated, alone, and stigmatized. It can take a hit on someone's self-confidence and self-esteem. However, we have seen that they're able to recover a measure of self-respect and a fuller sense of identity through friendship. Hospitality works both ways. People on the margins also gain self-respect and recognize their own gifts when someone is willing to receive their hospitality." Henry Nouwen has written that we will never believe we have anything to give unless there is someone who is able to receive. Indeed, we discover our gifts in the eyes of the receiver. And I think that's one thing that even in the survey, that people were able to recognize that Circle of Friends has been meaningful for them because they've been able to receive in that context as well. That in that circle structure, it's where it is about friendship. A person, they're also there giving, but they're also there to receive from that person who's maybe been marginalized because of the experience of homelessness. So I think when I think about the impact that the Circle of Friends volunteers have made, it's just really, it's really huge, just that fact of walking alongside. So anyways, thank you.
So the numbers that I quoted to you previously about all of the hours that are given and all of the money that means in terms of people hours and income means that we can't do what we do as MCC without our volunteers. But when you hear the stories about the connections that are made and the ways that lives are impacted, we wouldn't do what we do without volunteers, because it is volunteers who bring the heart and the soul and the connections and the community to what we're doing and who we are. 1 John 3, verses 16 to 18 says, "This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. If anyone has material possessions and sees his brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. To me, this is the story of the volunteer, the one who loves not just with words and speech, but with actions, and in the pursuit of a truth that will bring peace and justice to their world. So thank you. Thank you, and thank you to all of our volunteers for what they give and how they love.